Hello, welcome back. You know what? Great guest. #1 best-selling author on Amazon. His name is Steve Rodgers, who wrote this wonderful book called Led to Gold. And he's a lifestyle business coach, author, speaker. His inner circle is Brian Tracy, Mark Thompson, many others. You've seen him, possibly seen him with Warren Buffett. So we're really excited to have him here on the show to talk to us about this brand new book, all about transformations, profit, purpose, and many other things. So Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Steve.
Thank you so much for the book.
You're welcome.
I was excited to read it when you started going, okay, I got to get on.
You're welcome.
So tell us, what was your motivation behind writing the book?
Yeah, you know, I've actually wanted to write a book for a long time. Back when I was a CEO of a company and running a Prudential real estate for many years, I used to have a lot of speakers, writers, and authors come in and speak to my sales team or my management team. So I started meeting a lot of people that were in that space. And I thought, someday I'm going to write a book, someday. And then I went on from being a CEO of a company to running my own real estate company. And when I phased out of that 2 years ago and started a consulting company, I thought, what a great way to finally have all the excuses gone and to get the book launched. So it became a cathartic process, and it also then became a launching ground for me to market my new business that I have. So it became a very expensive calling card, if you would, in time and money to get it done. But I've been wanting to have this out of me to get this thing about transition and transformation out for quite some time.
So transition and transformation, talk about that as it relates to the book. I think that's very, very important, especially when people are making changes, whether to be moving into retirement or, you know, now in a position where we see a lot of people being downsized.
Yes.
And they're in their mid-50s, late 50s, and they're looking at something new. How do they deal with those obstacles and that transition that goes along with that?
Well, I know that's your specialty. You help people do that all the time and transition to the next best spot. So it's a great question. Well, you know, I have been someone who's been really researching and looking at transition my entire life, from whether it was health issues that I had myself, whether it was financial issues, business, career things. I've always been fascinated about the power of choice and the power that we have as human and spiritual beings to change our life. So I've always been into self-development and self-improvement. And when I started my consulting company, I chose the name Alchemy Advisors. And I love the word alchemy just because it represents transition and transformation. I love the book The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. If you haven't read it, it's a great, phenomenal, it's not a business book, it's a fable about life and our journey. But the thing I find with all of us is that we're all in some type of transition. We're transitioning from one relationship to another. We might be transitioning in graduation time. I went to 4 graduations in the last week. So these young men and women are graduating to the next part of their life. They're in transition. When I was in corporate America, I sometimes transitioned from job to job within a company. And you know, at one point in a big part of my career, I was fired after a big, long path, and I was in a forced transition. So I've always been fascinated about whether it's chosen transitions or forced transitions, what we can do to take control of that and turn it into something that's much better and not be barraged with fear. Because so many of us get bogged down in fear that we can't move forward.
Now, talk about some of the things that people could do. So, for example, like I said before, I have a number of clients that have been clients for a very, very long time. They've been at the top of their career, and you know what? A product decides to go this way with the company, and they go, you know what? We don't need this division anymore.
Right.
And now they're in their mid-50s, and they're going, hey, you know what? It's getting really hard for me to find a job like I used to. I just used to put out a resume, it'd be no problems.
Yes.
So how do people figure that out? What's the steps that they should take?
You know, I'm a big believer of everyone having a business and a life plan. Many of us have talked about having business plans. If you work within companies or corporations, or even if you're an entrepreneur, you probably ought to have some kind of business plan to get started. But very few of us have a life plan. And I know you have a life plan when you help people do their investments and their insurances and their different options, but also a life plan on your life for your family and your personal mission. So one of the things I help people do is find out what their mission is in life, not just what the next job is. What is it really is inside their heart and soul that's really calling them to do? And I believe that all of us have this nudging on our shoulder and this pulling at our collar that sometimes we just ignore because it's safe to stay doing what we're doing. So if you're in a forced transition or you're in a chosen transition, I help people to create business and life plans. It's a step-by-step process to help them to figure out what is your mission, what is your purpose, what are your core values, and then what are the steps to get there. So if you're going to eat an elephant, which not many people eat an elephant, but if you're going to eat an elephant, you do that one bite at a time. But you have to have the vision first of what's possible. So if someone is looking to make a transition, I would sit down and say, hey, let's look at your big picture about what that looks like and then back into it to see if it's possible to make that a new reality. And it may be that it's no longer going in the workforce. The world of being an entrepreneur in this day and age with technology and working from home and the internet has leveled the playing ground in such a great way that it allows people to start businesses that they never thought possible 5 or 10 years ago. So there's a whole new world out there.
I think that's great. And I just want to say one thing. A lot of people don't know this about me, but 10 years ago, I went through colon cancer.
I remember you and I talked about that,
yes.
It
was devastating. My wife, it was really tough on her.
Yes.
But one of the biggest things that came to me was, you know what? My goal was to make sure people that I was able to help never went through the same things I went through. And some of that is simple as making sure people have trust and have backup plans in case they go through something like that or have health issues. I dealt with a client this morning, and I'm just sharing this because it's right along the same line, is, you know what, her husband went through 7 years of long-term care where she took care of him.
She was a caregiver.
But one of the things that we did with her is we made sure somebody can give her a break so she can have a life.
Yes.
And her husband just passed away 3 days ago.
Oh, wow.
And her son flew down from, the Seattle, Washington area, and we just had a wonderful conversation today. And she goes, I'm just so thankful that you showed me the way to make sure that I could do this without me losing my head and being in the same position of my husband, because it was just so overwhelming.
Yes.
And
what a great gift you provided her.
Well, actually, you're providing that same gift too.
Yeah.
And that's what I really want to tell people is the gift that you provide is helping people get through those tough times and learn how to prosper as opposed to languish.
Opposed to being overwhelmed. Well, as you mentioned, it's interesting you should mention the health issue. What prompted me to finally start my consulting company is my wife almost 2 years ago had an unexpected health issue that she ended up in the hospital. She was in a coma for 3 weeks. She almost died for the first 3 days. And it really caused us both to assess our path, our life, and what do we really want to do with our lives. And so I really got into saying, okay, I'm no longer going to be running a residential real estate company that I've been doing for 20 or 25 years for myself or others. And I said, it's time for me to find my passion. And I got my wife aligned with that, and she was supportive of that once her health got back on track. And so I went out and decided to create. So people that have, whether they're health caregivers like you talked about, if they're in marriages or relationships, or they're in challenges of jobs, people like you and I that say, hey, there is another path, there is another way. And the key is to have people have enough confidence to understand it's possible, and then to create the plan to help get the steps to do there. Because what happens is it makes everyone else around them more happy and more productive. When you are the caregiver, or you are the provider, or you are the breadwinner, the more fulfilled you are and the more happy you are with your life and your purpose and what you're doing, the more you're going to spread that around to your family and friends and associates around you.
And I, you know what, one of the things that I found when you're able to do this is, everybody has those little quibbles with people.
Yes.
They all seem just to go away.
Yes.
It doesn't make a difference anymore. Those little things don't matter because it's not part of the big scheme.
That's true.
And when you can live in a place like that, that's a wonderful place to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. When people ask me what are the biggest things they can do to get started, sometimes I shock them and I say, find out who you need to forgive today. Who is it in your life right now that it's mother, brother, sister, father, friend, employer that you need to forgive, or who needs to forgive you? Because a lot of times what you're talking about, these quibbles that we have, it's unexpected, it's unused energy that we're sometimes spending time being mad at someone or being focused on someone that's taking so much energy from us in our thought or action. Just the power of forgiveness alone can really put enough energy in your reservoir tank to finally get to that next level. You'd be amazed what happens with that one major big thing you can do. This is wonderful. Hey, Steve, you know what? I'm a big advocate of listening to books. Is your book coming out on audio? Thanks for asking. That's a good question. Actually, I'm in the last 2 hours of doing my Audible book. So I have a friend who owns an audiobook company. So we have worked out a relationship, and so he's taping it, and it'll be ready to go on Audible and a few other audio online services in the middle of July. And it's on Amazon right now in book format. Thanks, Steve. That was wonderful information. My pleasure. If you would like to get Steve's book, Led to Gold, you can go to Amazon, or you can go to the Silver-Haired Tsunami website to get more information and links to getting the book. If you'd like to get a hold of Steve, you can do it through the alchemist.com. And stick with us. We'll be right back.